And you might have seen me recently on the harvest video I sent out to schools in Thanet to explain why we celebrate harvest. And if you haven't seen me before at your school where I do assemblies and help out with RE, I go into lots of Thanet primary schools talking about Jesus and God and the Bible. And today I want to help you with remembrance. I wonder how good you are at remembering things. Pause the video for a moment and tell your teacher one thing that you can remember that happened yesterday. So, I wonder what it was you remembered. I remembered that I went to the churchyard at St. Peter's to film some bits and pieces for today's assembly, but I'll share those to you later on. I wonder what it is you remember from yesterday. Now, I wonder if you think further back to when you were really small and your earliest memory. What is the very first thing you remember? I remember as a little girl of 3 being bought my very first doll's pram. What can you remember and how old were you? Let's pause the video for a minute. So sometimes objects can help us to remember things. Special times, special people, special events, lots of things like that. And we often call them mementos that help us to recall what happened when we had them. And I've brought a couple of things here to my desk to show you today. So the first is my very first teddy that my mum and dad gave me when I was a baby. Also, I found in my memory box a swimming club badge, because one of the things I loved doing as a child was swimming, and I belonged to Margate Swimming Club. Also, I've got my blazer badge from my secondary school, which as you can see is St. George's. Then I've also got one of my daughter's first pair of shoes. So that was a long time ago because my daughter's 28 now. And also in my memory box, I found these from where I'd done the Race for Life a few years ago. And then one other thing I thought I'd like to show you was this. I wonder how many of you have been to Disneyland Paris. Well, we went on a big family holiday a few years ago and I brought this back to remind me. But I also keep lots of photographs as well to remind me. Now obviously I've got photographs of my children. There's one of my nanny, my grandma. There's one of me and my daughter looking at my little boy's christening presents. And then I've got some of holidays where I went to Belgium, for example. But amongst my photographs, I also found these 2 pictures. I don't know if you can see them here, but there's lots of white stones all laid out in lines on this one. And again on this one, within the far background, a white cross. And that's what I want to talk to you today about, and that's the connection, these photos and a poppy. So at this time of year we stop and remember and think about those who've lost their lives in war to bring us peace and safety. And yesterday I went to the churchyard at St. Peter's, and I'd like to share with you what I found there. So come with me to the churchyard. So I'm at St. Peter's Church and this is the entrance to the churchyard. But I wanted to show you the war memorial here at the entrance. This war memorial was built in the 1920s and it was built in memory of people who'd been lost in the World War I. And it was built and designed by a local man, and the people from St. Peter's and surrounding areas gave money for it to be built. And normally people would meet here on Remembrance Sunday to stop, think and pray for those lost in the wars. Obviously we'll be doing that this year, but I've got more to show you in the churchyard. So in this cemetery there are quite a few war graves. There's some for sailors, some for soldiers and some for airmen, both from the First and the Second World War. And most have a special headstone like this one. And some of them also have a book on top of a family grave. But I thought I'd like to tell you about two particular stones. This one here doesn't have a name on it. This one is an unknown sailor from World War I who died sometime between 1914 and 18. And lots of cemeteries have stones like this for unknown sailors or soldiers and airmen, so that even if we don't know who he is, we can remember that he gave his life to save others. And so these stones help us to remember and be grateful for the sacrifice of others. In this part of the cemetery are some of the airmen and Royal Navy and soldiers from the World War II war. And this particular man here is called Corporal Richard Victor Jupp. And I picked this guy because I found out a little bit about his story. He grew up in Thanet. In fact, he went to school in Ramsgate at Chatham House. And he was in the Air Force until the 11th of June 1943, when his plane collided and crashed with another and all the crew lost their lives. The stones in the cemetery here, and thousands like them all over the country and in others abroad, remind us that there were thousands of men and women and even children that died in the world wars. They help us to remember that their sacrifice was a great sacrifice. And it helps us to remember to be grateful that they gave their lives for the sake of our freedom and to bring peace to our world. And that's why we wear poppies too. As we look around at the stones in the cemetery, I'd like us to give some time to thought, some time to be still. So let's think for a moment about those who are important to you and all those in this country and around the world that have died in war. Think about people who have helped you in the past, those you knew and those you didn't know. And today we think especially of people who have died in wars and fighting. Let's take a moment to think of the very special people who are those heroes. Soldiers, sailors, pilots, police, firefighters, ambulance drivers, doctors and nurses all risked their lives and indeed gave their lives for our safety and well-being. Together we say thank you. And when the words thank you come on the screen, say it with me. Thank you. God bless you, stay safe and be well, and I hope to see you again soon.